All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are going to pull back the curtain on some seriously cool cryptographic magic. The stuff that just made blockchains, well, infinitely more scalable.
You know, for years, this has been the question haunting developers, users, basically everyone in the space. If you've ever paid a ridiculously high gas fee or just sat there waiting for a transaction to confirm, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It felt like this constant, frustrating bottleneck that was just part of the deal.
And it really all boils down to this classic problem called the scalability trilemma. You know the one. You can have a network that's decentralized and secure, or secure and scalable, but getting all three? That seemed impossible. It was like, sure, we can make it faster, but you'd have to sacrifice the very thing that makes these networks so special in the first place, their decentralization.
So the industry got clever. They started building solutions to get around this. You know, things like layer 2 rollups that process transactions off the main chain to speed things up. But as they did, they stumbled upon an even bigger, kind of scarier problem, a hidden bottleneck that wasn't about speed at all. It was about data.
And this is where we get to the core idea, data availability. Now, it's super important to get this right. We're not talking about long-term storage, like saving files forever, no. This is a real-time guarantee that answers one simple but absolutely critical question. Was the data for this block published to the network right now, even just for a second? Was it made available so anyone could check it if they needed to?
Okay, so for all these layer 2 rollups, this one question isn't just a small technical detail. It's literally an existential threat. See, the way a rollup works is it processes a ton of transactions somewhere else and then posts a tiny little summary back to the main chain. Think of it like a cryptographic receipt. But what if that receipt is a lie?
Let me walk you through how this could go wrong, how a malicious attack would actually work. Imagine a bad actor on a layer 2. They could publish a summary to Ethereum that basically says, hey, guess what? All the money in this contract is mine now. But here's the trick. They withhold the actual transaction data that would prove it's a lie. So now, what can the honest users do? Nothing. They're completely powerless. You can't create a fraud proof to challenge the theft if you don't have the data to prove the fraud. The lie just becomes true, and the funds are gone. Scary stuff. So, to stop that nightmare scenario, Rollups had only one option. They had to post all of their raw transaction data directly onto the main Ethereum chain. They literally had to stuff it into a little data field called call data, a part of a transaction that really wasn't designed for this. And as you can imagine, this was incredibly inefficient and super expensive. Get this, that one cost, just posting data, made up over 90% of the transaction fees you were paying on layer 2s. 90%.
Okay, so that's the massive paradox, right? How in the world can you prove that a huge chunk of data is available for everyone without forcing everyone to actually download the whole thing? The solution to this is, well, it's a completely radical new way of thinking about verification.
Instead of the old way, which we can call replication, where every computer on the network, every node, has to download 100% of the data, we shift to something completely different, sampling. With this new idea, called data availability sampling, or DAS, each node just downloads a few tiny random pieces of the data. And here's the beautiful part. If everyone can successfully grab their little random sample, the network gains this incredibly high mathematical certainty that the entire block of data is there.
But you might be asking, what if an attacker is clever? How do we make this secure? Well, there's a brilliant mathematical trick involved. Before anything else, the data gets erasure coded. The best way to think about this is that it makes the data kind of stretchy. You add all this redundant information so that if you have any 50% of the pieces, you can perfectly reconstruct 100% of the original data. This is a game changer because it forces an attacker to hide more than half the block to get away with anything. And the chances of a bunch of random samplers not noticing that half the data is missing, it's practically zero, just mathematically impossible. So, erasure coding is the big idea. It's the how. But to actually make it work, to make it fast and secure enough for a global decentralized network, that required a very specific, very powerful piece of cryptographic magic.
And that magic is called KZG Commitments. Yeah, it's a mouthful, so everyone just calls them KZG Commitments. And really, you can just think of a KZG commitment as a tiny cryptographic seal of approval. It's a way to take a huge amount of data, doesn't matter if it's a movie, a novel, or a block of transactions, and boil it down to a very small, fixed-size fingerprint that proves its integrity.
Okay, now this is where it gets really cool. Let's compare this to the old way of doing things, using something called Merkle trees. With Merkle trees, as you can see, the proof size is logarithmic. In simple terms, that means the bigger your data, the bigger the proof you need to verify a piece of it. But look at KZG commitments. The proof size is constant, 0.1. That means it never changes, no matter how much data you're dealing with. It's always the same tiny size.
How tiny are we talking? Just 48 bytes. That's it? 48! And that number is so important. It doesn't matter if you're proving one word in a giant library of books or one pixel in a 4K movie. The proof that your little piece belongs to the whole is always just 48 bytes. This incredible efficiency is what makes data availability sampling practical. It's the key that unlocks the whole thing.
Now, there is a catch. Of course there's a catch, right? KZG has this one big asterisk. It requires something called a trusted setup. To get the system started, a secret number, they call it tau, has to be generated. And then, and this is the most important part, it must be destroyed. Because if anyone, anywhere, ever found that original secret number, they could create fake proofs, they could lie about data, and no one would know. It's such a catastrophic failure that it has its own nickname, toxic waste.
So how do you deal with a risk that huge? Well, Ethereum's answer was a massive global public ceremony. More than 140,000 people from all over the world participated. Each person contributed their own little piece of randomness to help generate the final secret. And the security assumption is actually beautifully simple. As long as just one of those 140,000 plus people was honest, just one person who actually destroyed their little piece of the secret, then the final secret is secure and completely unknowable to anyone.
All right, so the theory was sound, the crazy toxic waste problem was solved through this massive public effort, and so this incredible cryptographic tool was finally ready to be put into practice. And when it was, it completely changed the economics of the entire Ethereum ecosystem. And that happened in March of 2024. The upgrade was called EIP 4844, but you probably heard it called proto-danksharding. When this went live on Ethereum, it introduced an entirely new and much cheaper way for Layer 2s to post their data.
It introduced this new data type called blobs. Yes, blobs. They're basically 128 kilobyte packets of data designed specifically for this purpose. And they live in their own dedicated space on the network. They're also ephemeral, which means they don't stick around forever, only about 18 days or so. But the really crucial part, they have their own separate fee market. They're not competing with all the other transactions for space.
And the impact was, well, you can see for yourself. It was immediate and it was dramatic. Because Layer 2s could suddenly use this cheap, dedicated blob space, instead of fighting for that expensive call data, their costs just fell off a cliff. We're talking average transaction fees on major rollups dropping by more than 90%, almost literally overnight. A huge win for users.
But this breakthrough, it did more than just lower costs for you and me. It fundamentally changed the entire market for a digital resource that until now has been incredibly scarce. We're talking about block space. Suddenly, there was a whole new competitive landscape. And, this isn't just a story about Ethereum. A whole ecosystem of specialized data availability networks is popping up. You have projects like Celestia, which uses the older Merkle trees for different trade-offs. You have EigenDA, which also uses KZG, but secures it with a different economic model. They are all competing with each other to be the cheapest, most secure foundation for the next generation of rollups.
And all this fierce competition is doing one thing. It's leading to the commoditization of block space. Think about that. Something that used to be a super scarce, premium asset, kind of like beachfront property, is quickly turning into a cheap, abundant utility. It's becoming more like the bandwidth from your internet provider. And this is driving the cost for apps to store their data on a blockchain down, towards zero.
So, that leaves us with one final, and I think really exciting question. For the better part of a decade, developers have had to build everything under this massive constraint of data being incredibly expensive and scarce. But now, that constraint is being lifted. Block space is becoming cheap and abundant. So the question is, what are we going to build now? What new worlds become possible?